My daughter Emily slammed the car door shut just as my fingers brushed the ignition, her voice cracking like gunfire in the quiet garage. "Mom, don't. He's watching you." Through the car. I laughed it off at first, chalking it up to her latest conspiracy theory binge, but then she shoved a crumpled photo into my hand. Me, unconscious on an operating table, surrounded by masked surgeons who weren't mine. And in that split second, I knew my life, the one I'd clawed back from the dead, was about to unravel in ways that would make hell look like a vacation. That's when I popped open the vent, my nails scraping against the plastic grill, and there it was, a tiny black box, blinking red like a demon's eye, wired straight into the dashboard. A tracker. A bomb. No, worse, a live feed, streaming my every move to the man who'd stolen my face, my name, my everything. Vivian Hargrove wasn't me anymore. She was his puppet, and I was the ghost in the machine, trapped in this borrowed skin, ready to burn it all down. I'd always prided myself on being the unflappable one, the steel-spine CEO who turned a failing tech startup into a billion-dollar empire, while my husband, Richard, played the charming philanthropist on the charity circuit. We lived in that sprawling glass-and-steel McMansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, the kind of place where the hedges are trimmed by robots and the wine cellar holds bottles older than the country. Emily, our 17-year-old firecracker with my eyes and his smirk, was the glue holding our perfect facade together. Or so I thought. It started 6 months ago, or at least that's when the cracks showed. I'd been driving home from a board meeting in Manhattan, the kind where I crushed egos and sealed deals over kale smoothies and veiled threats. Rain hammered the windshield like it had a personal grudge, and some asshole in a Tesla cut me off on the Merritt Parkway. I swerved, tires screaming, heart in my throat, and plowed into the guardrail. Blackout. Woke up in a hospital bed that smelled like bleach and regret, tubes snaking into my arms, monitors beeping like a bad synth track. But it wasn't me in that bed. Not really. The doctors said I had a traumatic brain injury, amnesia, the works. "Mrs. Hargrove, you've been in a coma for weeks." They cooed, all white coats and sympathetic nods. Richard was there, gripping my hand, his ring biting into my skin, tears in his eyes that didn't reach them. "Viv, thank God. We thought we'd lost you." Emily hovered in the doorway, pale as a ghost, clutching a teddy bear she'd outgrown years ago. I played along because what else could I do? My memories were Swiss cheese, flashes of boardrooms, Emily's graduation, Richard's late nights at the office. But something gnawed at me, itch under my skin like I'd been dipped in acid. My reflection in the hospital mirror? Same sharp cheekbones, same auburn waves, but the eyes. They were mine, yet not. Colder. Hungrier. Discharged after a month of rehab that felt like boot camp for the soul, I dove back into Hargrove Dynamics, our AI firm specializing in neural interfaces, brain-computer links for everything from prosthetics to virtual realities. Ironic, right? The company I'd built on the promise of unlocking the mind was the very thing that would unlock my nightmare. Emily noticed first. She was always the perceptive one, scrolling TikTok theories about deepfakes and elite cabals while I dismissed it as Gen Z paranoia. "Mom, you're different," she'd say, poking at my arm during dinner. "Like your laugh. It's off." Richard would chuckle, pouring me another glass of Napa Valley Cabernet. "Jet lag from the coma, kiddo. Give her time." But time didn't heal, it festered. Late one night, insomnia gnawing like a rat, I hacked into my own company's servers. Old habits die hard. Buried in the R&D archives was a file labeled Project Echo, Consciousness Transference Protocol. My stomach dropped faster than the Dow in '08. It detailed an experimental procedure, swapping neural patterns between two subjects via our proprietary implants. One donor, one recipient. The donor's mind wiped clean, body repurposed. Ethical? Hell no. Viable? According to the logs, yes, for the right price. And there, time-stamped the day of my accident, was the kicker. Subject A, me, Vivian Hargrove, and Subject B, unidentified female, early 40s, indigent, harvested from a state psych ward. The swap was partial, my consciousness shoved into her shell, her fragmented psyche patched into mine. Why? The logs didn't say, but the funding trail led straight to Richard's offshore accounts. He'd sold me out, framed me for embezzling company funds to cover his own Ponzi scheme with shady investors. Russian oligarchs, Saudi princes, the whole rotten alphabet soup. I took the fall in absentia while comatose, my recovery a smokescreen for him to consolidate power. The real Vivian, the one walking around in my skin, was a puppet. Docile, compliant, signing over assets with a smile that wasn't mine. And Emily? She'd seen through it from the start, piecing together clues from my off behaviors, the way Mom flinched at touch, forgot inside jokes. That's why the warning in the garage. That's why the photo, snapped by a nurse she'd bribed with her allowance. I stared at that blinking device in the vent, my borrowed hands trembling. This body, pale, scarred from a life of needles and neglect, wasn't made for luxury leather seats, but rage? Oh, it fit like a glove. Richard thought he was untouchable, a king in my castle. But kings fall, and I was about to topple the throne. I yanked the box free, wires snapping like brittle bones, and crushed it under my heel. Emily's eyes lit up, fear morphing to fire. "What now?" she whispered, glancing at the house where Vivian and Richard sipped cocktails on the patio. "Now," I said, voice gravelly from disuse. "We take back what's ours. But you stay here. This gets ugly." She grabbed my wrist. "No way. He's not just stealing you. He's erasing us. I found his emails. He's planning to accident you again, make it look like suicide. Tonight." My blood ran cold, then boiled. The plot in the vents wasn't just surveillance. It was rigged with a sedative gas trigger, set to deploy on the highway. One push of a remote from his phone, and poof, another crash, this time fatal. For the imposter me, the real casualty would be the last loose end, the original Vivian, squatting in this nobody's husk. We had to move fast. I slipped into the house through the side door, heart pounding like a bass drop at a trap concert. The air smelled of rosemary and lies, Richard's signature roast, the one he'd perfected to impress my board. Laughter floated from the living room. His, booming, hers, mine, tinkling like wind chimes in a hurricane. I crept to the study, Emily's footsteps soft behind me. My old laptop hummed on the desk, password unchanged because why would he? Arrogance. Thy name is Richard. I pulled up the echo files, downloading everything to a thumb drive while cross-referencing his calendar. Bingo, a therapeutic drive scheduled for 8 p.m. The trap. But revenge isn't a solo act. I needed allies, leverage. A quick search revealed the donor's identity, Lila Voss, a former journalist who'd blown the whistle on big pharma corruption, committed after a breakdown. Her family? Scattered, but her brother ran a cybersecurity firm in Boston. One encrypted email later, and I had a digital ghost army at my fingertips. Emily tugged my sleeve. "Mom, you look." She pointed to the window. Richard and Vivian, strolling the garden, his arm around her waist. Intimate. Possessive. My stomach twisted. That was my life, my love, or what I'd thought was love. Betrayal cut deeper than any scalpel. We waited until they retired, the house settling into that false quiet of wealth. Then, under cover of a staged power flicker, Emily's doing, flipped breaker like a pro, I swapped places. Not bodies this time, but shadows. I cornered the imposter in the master bath, mirror fogged from her shower. She turned, towel slipping, eyes widening in recognition, not of me, but of the void where her own mind should be. "You're not her," I hissed, voice low. Lila's fragments flickered in her gaze. Confusion, rage, a plea. What did he do to us? She lunged, but I was faster, this body honed by survival on the streets post-swap. A chokehold, just enough to subdue, and I dragged her to the basement wine cellar. Ironic, locking her in the very excess that funded this madness. Richard found me there, Vivian, version 1.0, sipping Merlot with a predatory smile. "Darling, everything okay? Emily said you were feeling off." "Off," I echoed, channeling my old self. Like a glitch in the Matrix, Rich. Care to explain Project Echo? His face drained of color, then flushed crimson. "Viv, what are you?" I hit play on the laptop, projecting the logs onto the wall like a horror flick. His empire crumbling in pixels. "You didn't just steal my company. You stole me. Shoved my soul into that junkie's body, patched her crazy into mine. For what? To cover your ass on that $200 million slush fund." He backed away, hands up like I was the intruder. "It was for us. The investors were coming. Threats, Viv. I had to protect the family." "Family." Emily burst, and then phone in hand, live streaming to the board and SEC. You mean your mistresses and Cayman accounts? The room exploded, shouts, accusations, the imposter pounding from below. Richard lunged for the phone, but I was ready. A swing from a vintage Bordeaux bottle. Crack, sent him crumpling. Controversial? Hell yes. Assault on your spouse in your own home. Cops would love that spin. But self-defense in the face of attempted murder? My lawyers would feast. As sirens wailed in the distance, Emily's anonymous tip, I knelt by him, whispering, "You should have driven yourself off that cliff, Rich. Now watch me steer." That was just the opening salvo. The real war? It was dawn. The paramedics hauled Richard out on a stretcher, his head lolling like a puppet with cut strings, while the imposter, Lila in my skin, babbled to the cops about imposters and mind control. They chalked it up to trauma, sedated her on site. Emily and I stood in the driveway, rain slicking our faces, watching the circus unfold under flashing lights. Neighbors gawked from manicured lawns, phones out, turning our domestic Armageddon into viral fodder. Hargrove horror was trending by midnight. I was still in this stranger's body, Lila's, to be precise, a wiry frame that ached from the adrenaline dump, clothes hanging loose like a bad thrift store score. But for the first time since the swap, I felt solid. Anchored. Emily squeezed my hand, her nails digging in. We did it, Mom. Sort of. The logs I'd leaked were a gut punch to Richard's operation, but he was a snake, slippery, venomous, with fangs in D.C. and bite in boardrooms. He'd lawyered up faster than you could say non-disclosure, spinning the Echo project as speculative R&D gone awry. Me? The delusional drifter who'd infiltrated his home? Cops eyed me like yesterday's trash, Lila's psych record and neon sign screaming, unreliable witness. We holed up in a no-tell-motel off I-95, the kind with vibrating beds and walls thin as tissue. Emily hacked us fake IDs, her coder boyfriend's handiwork, while I plotted. Revenge wasn't a sprint. It was a marathon through moral gray zones, the kind that leaves blood on your soles even if there's none to see. First decision, the controversial one. Do I reverse the swap? Drag Lila's mind back to her body, mine to its rightful place? Or let her rot in luxury while I dismantle him from the shadows? I chose shadows. Power's a drug, and Richard had mainlined it for years. Walking back in as Vivian would have been suicide. Biometrics, retinal scans, the works. No, I'd be the phantom, the glitch he couldn't debug. Step 1. Leverage Lila's brother, Marcus Voss. He met us at a dive bar in Bridgeport, face like weathered granite, eyes burning with a grief I'd recognize anywhere. She called me once, after the commitment. He growled over black coffee. Said they were experimenting on her for a story. Next call? Silence. He slid a dossier across the booth. Richard's dirt, compiled over years. Bribes to FDA officials for echo green lights. Coerced test subjects from homeless shelters. A trail of vanished whistleblowers. We struck a pact. Marcus's cyber crew would flood the dark web with echo leaks, redacted just enough to dodge libel, raw enough to torch reputations. In return, I'd feed him insider access to Hargrove servers. Emily? She was our wild card, charming Richard's PA for passwords over innocent texts. But tension coiled like a spring. Emily cracked one night, pacing the motel carpet worn to threads. This isn't you, Mom. The real you wouldn't. Enjoy this. She meant the cold calculus, the way I'd greenlit doxing Richard's mistresses, exposing their affairs, their addictions, collateral shrapnel in the blast radius. Controversial? Like dropping napalm on a playground. But war's ugly, and he'd started it by carving up my soul. You're right, I admitted, staring at the neon vacancy sign bleeding red through the blinds. But the old me was blind. Trusted him with everything. Our vows, our daughter, our future. He didn't just betray me. He buried me alive in someone else's hell. Flashback hit then, unbidden. The swap chamber, sterile white, restraints biting wrists. Voices muffled, Richard's, authorizing the upload. Pain like lightning forking my brain, then nothing. Waking in a gutter, rain pooling in Lila's empty eyes, a suicide note pinned to her coat. His cover story, she'd offed herself after therapy. Emily stopped pacing, sank onto the bed. Then finish it. But promise, no more ghosts after. Dawn brought the first blow. Marcus's drop, A live feed from Richard's penthouse, him raging at lackeys, smashing a $10,000 vase. Find that bitch, the real one. She's got the files. Paranoia suited him, bags under his eyes like bruised plums. Good. Sleep was for the innocent. We escalated. I posed as a disgruntled ex-employee, Lila's journalist chops shining through, leaking to the New York Times. Headline: Hargrove Dynamics Dark Secret. Mind-swapping tech or human trafficking? Stocks tanked 30% by lunch, board fleeing like rats from a blaze. Richard countered with a presser, all teary charisma. A tragic breach, but my wife, God bless her, is recovering. Cut to Vivian, at his side, vacant smile, nodding like a bobblehead. The public ate it up. America loves a redemption arc, especially when it's laced with tragedy. Protests erupted outside his HQ in Stamford, signs screaming, "Justice for Vivian." Irony. Delicious. Emily and I watched from a food truck, munching falafel, her laughter brittle but real. But power brokers don't fold easy. Richard's next move was a whisper campaign. Me painted as a stalker, obsessed with the real Mrs. Hargrove. Bounty hunters, private muscle with NYPD ties, started sniffing around. One tailed us from a Starbucks run, beefy guy in a Crown Vic, radio crackling. I lost him in traffic, but the close call lit a fuse. That night, decision time again. Controversial as hell. Do I go nuclear? Hack his implants? Yeah, he had one. Experimental perk for enhanced cognition. A backdoor virus from Marcus could fry his synapses, leave him drooling in a nursing home. Mercy killing for the mind. Emily vetoed hard. That's murder, Mom. You're better than him. Am I? The question hung, heavy as humidity before a storm. In Lila's body, with her echoes whispering doubts. What if this is karma? What if you deserve the fall for building the tech that enabled it? I wavered. But revenge is momentum. Stop, and it crushes you. We pivoted to the personal. Emily arranged a family reconciliation at the house. Her idea, balls of steel. I slipped in as the caterer, wig and apron camouflage, close enough to smell his cologne, sandalwood and sin. He was fraying, tie loose, barking at Vivian to act normal. She cornered me in the kitchen, eyes feral. Get out of my head, she hissed, Lila's voice in my timbre. He promised erasure. Pity flickered, then died. He lied to us both. Help me end it, and maybe we both walk away whole. She hesitated, fragments warring, then nodded. Alliance forged in the devil's pantry. The gala that weekend, Hargrove's Hail Mary fundraiser for neurological research, was ground zero. Chandeliers dripped light like liquid gold, A-listers air-kissing over caviar bumps. Richard glad-handing senators, Vivian, on his arm, a Stepford shell. Emily, in a killer red dress, played decoy, flirting with donors to draw eyes. I struck from the AV booth, Marcus remote piloting the hack. Screens flickered, then bloomed with truth. Echo footage, blurred for decency, subjects strapped down, screams muted but screams nonetheless. Richard's voiceover, damning. Upload complete. Assets secured. Gasps rippled like dominoes. Phones whipped out, live tweeting the apocalypse. He bolted for the exit, but Lila, Vivian, blocked him, syringe from her clutch glinting. For us, she murmured, jabbing his neck. Not lethal, just a neural blocker, our tech turned tables. He slumped, eyes rolling, the king dethroned in his own court. Cops swarmed, SEC seals slapped on doors. But as they cuffed him, Richard locked eyes with me. Peeling off the wig in the chaos, stepping into the light. Recognition dawned, horror twisting his face. You. Impossible. Miss me, honey. The words tasted like ash and victory. Emily hugged me fierce, tears hot on my neck. It's over. Was it? The climax crashed like waves, but the tide pulls back. Richard lawyered up, plea bargaining for reduced time. 10 years, maybe less with good behavior. Echo buried as failed prototype. Victims silenced with NDAs and payouts. Lila, deported to a psych eval. Her mind a mosaic we'd never fully reassemble. Me? I could have fought for the swap back, sue for my body, my life. But courts moved slow, and Richard's machine ground on. Instead, I chose exile. New name, new city, Seattle, rain-soaked and reinventing. Emily visits Summers, bridging worlds. You're still Mom, she says. Body or not? Yet doubts linger, dark as the vents I once feared. Was revenge justice? Or just trading one monster for another? I exposed him, sure, but the decisions? Doxing innocence, allying with ghosts, that bottle to his skull. Gray areas bleed into black. Sometimes, in quiet hours, I wonder if Lila's echoes are winning. If the real betrayal was mine, to ambition, to the god complex of playing with souls. America loves underdogs, but hates mirrors. We cheer the comeback, debate the cost. As for Richard, last I heard, he's writing a memoir from Club Fed. From the ashes, a love story. Twisted to the end. Me? I'm driving now, windows down, no vents checked, wind whipping free. But freedom's fragile. One wrong turn, and the plot thickens again. Months blurred into a haze of reinvention, the kind where you wake up not knowing if the scars are yours or borrowed. Seattle suited Lila's body, drizzle masking tears, coffee shops for plotting instead of boardrooms. I landed freelance gigs, ghostwriting white papers on ethical AI for startups too green to know better. Irony. My byline, V. Voss. A nod to the woman whose skin I wore, whose fury fueled me. Emily thrived back east, dormbound at Yale. Early admission, her trauma essay, about family implosion, a admissions hook. We FaceTimed weekly, her face filling the screen like a lifeline. Dad's appealing, she'd say casually, over ramen slurps. Says the video was deep fake. But the board's testifying against him. It's bad. Bad for him. For us? Cathartic, in that twisted American way. Watching the mighty fall on court TV reruns, popcorn in hand. But revenge's aftertaste is bitter, like overbrewed espresso. Nights, I'd pace my tiny apartment overlooking Puget Sound, fog rolling in like unanswered questions. What if the swap wasn't total erasure? What if fragments of me lingered in Vivian, puppeteering her smiles, her slip-ups? The twist came on a crisp October morning, email ping shattering the calm. Sender, anonymous, routed through Tor. Attachment, a grainy video file. I hit play, heart jackhammering. Grainy footage, security cam style, Hargrove HQ basement, timestamped pre-swap. Me, original me, arguing with Richard in the Echo Lab. Voices tinny but clear. This is insane, Rich. Consciousness transfer? We're not gods. His reply, oily smooth. We're pioneers, Viv. And broke. The investors want results, now. One test, on volunteers. You and me, proving it works. Me, hesitant, then nodding. For the company. For Emily's future. Cut to the chamber. But wait, dual pods. Richard climbing into one, me the other. Upload initiating. Not a swap with Lila. A merge. Him into me into. Oblivion? No, the logs lied. It was us, entwining neural nets, his ambition overriding mine. The video ended with him emerging, dazed, then smiling, my smile. Vivian Hargrove, reborn. Truth inverted like a funhouse mirror. I'd been complicit, pushed the project for glory, ignored the ethics flags. Richard didn't betray me alone. I handed him the knife. The accident. Staged to cover the merge. His mind dominant in my body. My essence shunted to Lila's as backup, a glitch he meant to purge. Rage? Nah. Nausea. The decisions I justified, the docs, the violence, mirrored his. I was him in echo. Emily called that night, voice trembling. Mom? I found something in Dad's files. You knew. The word hung, damning. Not all. I lied, then confessed. Silence stretched, oceanic. Does this change us? No, she whispered. But it changes you. Come home. Fix it for real. Home. The word tasted foreign, laced with loss. But endings demand choices. Happy? Tragic? Debatable, like all good American tales. Rags to riches, or hubris to dust. I flew back, economy this time, no first-class armor. Confronted the imposter, Richard in my skin, at the prison visitor's room, glass between us like judgment. He leaned in, my eyes, gleaming. Took you long enough, Viv. We're the same now. Partners. No, I said, sliding papers under the slot. Reversal protocol, crowdsourced from ex-employees, ethical hackers. We're done. The procedure? Underground clinic in Jersey, black market neurodocs with grudges. Risky, 50-50 shot at separation or madness. Emily held my hand, Lila's hand. as the machine hummed, pulling threads from the tangle. Waking? Disorienting. My body, but lighter. His echoes fading, mine resurfacing. Lila, revived in her own shell, piecing a life from shards. Forgiveness? Maybe in time. For her, for Emily. Richard? The merge left him hollow. Visiting hours, he rambled about echoes, a broken king in orange. Justice? Poetic, if you squint. Emily and I rebuilt. Smaller house, no empire. She studies neuroethics now, fighting the beasts we birthed. Me? I consult, worn of hubris. Drive with vents open, wind honest. But the twist lingers. Was it revenge or reckoning? Did I win or just swap cages? Readers argue, hero or villain. I drive on, uncertain. That's the American way. Roads endless, truths bent, plots forever thickening. In the rear view, I see us, mother, daughter, free. For now.